Hi, everyone. Well, here we are with Artistic Digitizer Basics and Beyond, and it's back to school. It's our last back to school one, and we're going to be talking about patches and applique. Let me get the camera on. There we go, and I'll get this on there. All right, everyone, welcome. I'm Anne Hein, Embroidery Software Specialist for Janome America. And as I said, today I wanted to talk a little bit about things like this, patches, and applique. There we go. And we've talked about this before. I want to show you some things in the software that could help you with doing your patches, okay? Or even your applique. So what I want to do is I'm going to start over at my camera and show you some samples of things, and then we'll jump into the computer and I'll show you on there where things are and where we can go with that. All right, hang on. I'm going to close something over here. And let's see if we can go down here if this works. There we go. All right. So I stitched these out today. These are actually borders that you can find in the clip art library within the software. And I'm just going to bring this up a little closer so you can see. So there are several of these. Now these you could probably make them a bit thicker if you were going to make a patch out of them. Okay, you can work on when we'll work on that when we go to the software. They have those, but they also have these. They have these borders, and so some of them are plain, and some of them have their. This is actually heavily stitched, and this is more of a like a net fill. So you could use this on a towel too if you wanted. Right here, this was my tail of thread that got caught there. So you have those to work with, and there's a variety of shapes. I'm going to show you those and how you can play with them. And then I did create a patch today. Let me see if I get this the right way. This is the one I created. I'm going to move this light because I think it's, there we go. So you can see this. It says Sew Janome on it. Okay, there we are. And I used one of the square templates, borders, and with the full fill in there. And it's hard to show you all, there it is, the fill. And then I added a design on top, and then it has its satin outline, or satin border. And then here's a look at the back. Now I did mine just on Kona cotton, and then I stiffened it with some Terrio Magic. But when you want to do patches like this that are going to be maybe sewn on something else, even with all this stitching, this is still a little thin, which is fine. It's soft. You might want to use a twill or a duck cloth, all right, on those, so that you have a firmer base to start with. And the other thing I'm going to say now, so I don't forget, on the back side here, I didn't do this, I left my black bobbin in when I did the last round of stitching. And actually it wasn't at the end, and I could move it to the end. But that's one thing you want to remember when you're doing it, is to change your bobbin thread to be a matching thread. It just makes things a little bit nicer on the back side. So when you're working with these, and I'm going to see if I can bring my camera closer. There we go. Oh, that's better. Here we are. So this is sort of a cutaway of one of the square one here that I was working on. And what I did is I added a placement line right there. Then I laid my fabric over it, and I took my placement line and I offset it and made it a little bit of a zigzag to hold down my fabric, and then I trimmed close to it. And then when it's doing the satin stitching, it first goes, it has a light layer here, and then it goes to the heavy layer there. And let me get closer here so you guys can see that. So that's how you would work with doing this patch, much like you would with an applique. You could create a placement line, then you lay down your fabric, and you have a tack down. And I did a little zigzag with this one. I trimmed all the way around, and then it does the preset one, that's this one. It does a run of zigzag, and then it comes back over on itself with a nice one here. Now, what I try to remember to do, and it's, I'll hold this up a little closer to you so you can see. Let's see this side here. Like along here, when it does this zigzagging here, if I haven't trimmed close enough, like I can see some black there, I would trim again and make that nice and neat so that when it does its final, you have a nice finished edge on there. Now I did this is a wash away stabilizer, and I'm using 2 layers of it because this is a thin fabric, and I was doing the extra stitching on the inside, the fill that's on the inside. Okay, so that's a really big help within our software that you can do that. And I'll go in and show you. I'm going to put this off to the side, but I want to show you some other patches and things that I have here. And you have seen some of these, but these ones here, I was playing around with using different fills. So I made a shape, and then I tried different fills just to see how they would look. And that's what you can do too. You could make some blanks and things like that, so you know what's happening. Here I used, and this I was stitching on wool felt, so it's a little thicker felt, both of these. And here's a decorative stitch that I used. So you could use this for your background. You don't have to have a solid stitched background like this, like a step fill. You don't have to have a step fill. So you could do that kind of thing. Let me see here. I have a couple things here. Now, I used wash away for the one today, but I typically use, this is Badge Master. And I've mentioned this before. This is a wash away, and I might have a piece where, so when you get done, it really you can really just tear it away. It tears away very clean. On this one, I cut close, and then I just wet it with my finger around the edge to melt away the wash away. So you can use either the mesh type or Badge Master if you want to use that. On these here, I sort of left this so you could see the building of this. And this is vinyl. This is a piece of vinyl I had. And then for the back of it, I covered it with felt. Now this one I didn't cover the back. You can cover the backs if you want. You don't have to. Let me see if I did that here. I did the same thing on my mushrooms. So when you have to add another round of stitching before you do your satin stitch to add the back piece there and trim it. So you would add it, let it do a tack down, trim it, and then do the final part here. So it's all about the order of how you want things done. So you have to think about where everything's going to be as you go through it. And as you can see here, this one here, I did some stitching when I added the back. This is my line for the back, so you can see it right there. And then it came back and I did my satin stitch. And of course I changed my bobbin thread here. Now this one, I added this little heart and let it go through onto the back of my badge here. So you can do that kind of thing too. You can leave it plain. You can not have anything back there if you don't want to cover it up. And then this is by OESD, this Badge Master. They also have a product you can put on the back of your badges to make them sort of heat sensitive, things like that. So this one here, this is one of the designs in our, I think it's in one of our machines, and it had a fairly nice satin stitch around it. So I kind of used it for making a little badge. And you could just tear this. Let me get some of this away. There we go. So you can see, you could use this for a badge. So if you wanted to have a little flower badge or a patch or something like that, you can look at some of the designs that are in our machine and you can adapt them. If they have satin stitch, you're good. If you need to add satin stitch, you can do that as well. This is the mushrooms that are in our machine, and I put them on some cotton fabric here, and then I created the outline around them myself to make a little cute mushroom patch. And this is what it looks like when it's cut out. But again, if you use, depending on what you're putting on it, if you use twill or like duck cloth, that works really well too. So this one here, again, and this one has vinyl on the backside. This is more of a coaster, all right. And I don't think I changed. Oh yeah, I guess I did. So I haven't washed away the edge yet to show you that, there it is. I just cut it close and then I'll wash that away. I'm very careful at the end that, I could trim this really, really close, but I don't want to catch any of those satin stitches. So, this is a patch, or, it's a coaster because it has vinyl back here. So it's the same kind of, options. It's almost like, well, this doesn't have an applique fabric on there. So this is all stitched. These are ones I've done on felt. And sometimes these are great. These are little swaps I was making. So I did the stitch in the center. This is from our MC 1000, MC 100. These are one of the little designs in there. And I created a shape to go around them. I was kind of fiddling around with what I wanted to do. I was looking to maybe put a grommet hole up here so you could put it on a ring. So I'm still playing with this. But when I did that last stitch to add the back, that's how I added the back with this little, and this is a little, just a little segment of satin stitching all the way around. So you don't have to do, with felt, this doesn't ravel, so you can cut close or with pinking shears. Same thing here. This one here, it's just my multiple hearts, and then I just added this on the back side. And I didn't cut very well here, so that's one thing. When I get to the end, you have to remember, be careful with what you're doing so that you cut, cleanly. So here, so this one is one I made a long time ago. This is a step fill background that I put in here. And I did it on one layer of the wash away. And there's felt in there. And there's that decorative. And these just have the felt. And then there's nothing on the back side. Again, I should use my same matching thread so you don't have this on the back. But I just wanted to show, I made a circle. This isn't one of the pre-digitized one. This is one I did. And there it is. It stitches up very, very nice. So that's on patches. I'm going to quickly show you applique and how you do applique, because people are it's very similar to how I would do a patch. So when I do my patch, I mentioned earlier that I would create a placement line. Same thing when you do applique. Now in our machine, in our software, we have an applique tab, so it will give you your placement, your tack down, and your finishing. Or you can create those manually as well. Sometimes it helps to do that. And when you create manually, you want to be sure to change color in the software color thread for every step. So it would give me a placement. I would lay my fabric down like that. And then it would do its stitching like this. Okay. And then this placement line is for my flower. So this is the placement for the outer edge of my piece. And I'm going to show you at the end what it looks like. So then on that center piece, I would lay this fabric, and it's going to stitch the tack down. And then you have your tack down. This has a little layer of batting in it that I have on the back side for a different project, but just so you can see. Now I would trim this close, and you see here, this is the trimmed section. Okay, that's all trimmed. And then it comes by and it does, the next thing would be the finishing stitch. So it has a little satin stitch, and it has a little centerpiece too with it. So once this little centerpiece goes, I have a fabric that's going to go in there, and it's going to stitch around, and I'll trim it so that the center of my flower is all stitched. And then the last thing I did is I did add, for this applique, I added a piece of this to the edge because it's the front of my little pouch. So it's the applique and this is the edge. I was making a little satin outline on my applique. And I later on I did one with a zipper in it, but this is just a little fold over so you could see the different steps to do for an applique. And you can create, you know, when you do applique in the software, you can even create a cut file right there at with the applique tab. It gives you that option to go ahead and create a cut file. So you can go all the way from the beginning to the end with your appliques. Even here, if you wanted to cut blanks, you could create a cut file from your badges and your patches. You could do the same thing. Okay, so you can, it would take a line from within there and you could create your back part of it. All right, so let me go into the software. If you have questions, be sure to post them down below so that I can come back and answer those. And let me go to software. Here we go. All right, so here we are with our software. And I am in version 2, but all of this can be done in version 1. Some things are going to look a little different for you here. And I'm going to open this up and look at my USB stick. So that is here. Okay, so I'm going to show you this here. These are, remember I showed you earlier, those ones that are in your software. I put them all together like this and I saved them as clip art 1. I have one as clip art 2, and I'm saving as a draw file. You want to save the first, when you're working, everything you should save as a draw file. And these are the other ones here. These have the same 3. It's nothing in the center, a step fill, and then this sort of net fill in there. Let me show you where you find those. I'm going to go open a new page. Right up under tools, which you can't see on mine, but it's on your very top, usually right along here at your top toolbar. You want to go to tools, clip art library, insert clip art. And then you can search by putting in BOR or BRO, sorry, no, border, BOR. There we go. Can I spell at all today? Probably not. There we go. So here's our borders. Now these borders are fancy. They're not really for patches. Let me show you what this one looks like. So I'm going to select that one. I'm going to click insert. If I want to keep it at the pre-digitized size, I'm just going to left click and there it is. So this is a pre-digitized fancy border. I could use this for a quilt label if I wanted to. And the size of this one is 6 by almost 4 or 3.5, something like that. Of course, when you bring them in, you can make them any size you want, but I'm going to show you that little trick again when we get going here. Because typically I click and drag, but with the borders that I was going to turn into patches, I wanted to put them at the size. This is the pre-digitized, this is the digitized size, but you can make them any size. So let me go this way. Here we are. So when you go into your borders, there are a lot of these as we go through here. Let me go back this way. These ones here, and that little arrow, if you're going to click and drag, that's the angle that you would click and drag, or you can just left click and it puts it up there. Now this one really, for a patch or something, you wouldn't want to use that because it has this extra stuff on the sides there, but you could use this on on a fabric itself and put something in here. Maybe you're doing something on a tea towel, or you wanted to make a little insignia on a shirt or a jacket or something like that. These are rather thick in here, so I would definitely test them out to see, make a sample on the fabric that you're going to be stitching it on to see what it looks like, to make sure it's what you want. And I'm going to not save that. But let me go back up under my tools, clip art library. There we go. So I'm going to go down here to the ones. Here we go. So some of these have, these ones here are more decorative. They have decorative edges. So you don't really, they don't make a good edge for a patch or a badge. But then you get into these and you can see here's the 3 circles, the empty one, and then the 2 full ones. And of course, this is like 3 by 2.4. So if I pick this one and say insert, and then I just click, there it is. And that's the digitized size. So you would, oops, I'm trying to get my, there we go. So someone asked the other day, I was zooming like this. Here, I am on my Mac and I do use a mouse with a wheel, but you can put your cursor on where you want to zoom and touch control and move your mouse wheel in and out. If you want to go left and right, you touch shift and roll your mouse wheel. Okay, I like a mouse. If you're not using your mouse, you're going to have to do the gestures on your trackpad. And if you just do a search for how to use the trackpad on your Mac or even on your PC, it'll bring up some information and it'll show you all the gestures and how to use them. So I just don't have, my fingers don't react well with my trackpad, so I don't like it as well. So I like to use my mouse wheel, so that's what I do. But when you're using the clip art library, you could do the left click like I was doing, or you could do the click and drag. And I'm actually going to go to a new page. Let me delete this one off of here. Let me go to a new page, go to my tools, clip art library, insert clip art. Let's go look at my borders. Here we go. So look how many there are. They give you the shapes. And these are the ones, as I said, they're not, you can use them for lots of other things, but not really for patches. This is, let's go to this one. I like the filled ones. And then I'm going to do an insert. If I'm going to click and drag, there it is. So I could make it, you can really make it any size. Even if I just clicked it, left clicked and got it here, I could make it any size. So when you have this, let me show you what this looks like under slow redraw so you can see this. So this one stitches, you have to check them. Some of them stitch the outline first and then the fill. So I'm not sure why some of them are that way. So here, this one is going, it did its outer stitch, and then it's, let me zoom in here so we can see it a little closer. So it's doing its fill stitch. And I recommend when you're doing this part that you have a full bobbin, because you don't want to have to stop in the middle and change your bobbin, because of I did have a little blip with that. Just getting it to line, you can get it to line up, but sometimes you don't want to end up with a little gap or a little overlap. So make sure you have a full bobbin when you start, and then it'll start. Now this one has a different type of underlay, and then it does the zigzag, and then it comes back and finishes it, and then it does that side. So it does it like in 2 pieces on there. So you can check them all out and see which one, works for you and how you want to work with it. And I'm just going to go to the browser and show you the one I made. So this is the Janome one I made. And what I did is I created over here, you can see my placement line, the tack down. This is the background. Then it does that satin stitch finish. And if I wanted to cover the back, I would add a fabric to the back and probably use this to tack it down. I'll show you. And then I created my sewing machine and then the elements on my sewing machine. When you add things on top, or even these lines down here, you want to make sure in properties that you're changing remove overlaps to never. All right, so that it doesn't make your stitches go away. So if you select something and you're looking down here and it says 0 stitches, maybe you have to come over here and look at remove overlaps. So how did I do that? Well, I brought in this shape here first. So I'm going to go to a new page so I don't work on that one. And I'm going to make this the smaller hoop, this one here. And then we'll zoom in here so we can keep this close. Go to Tools, Insert Clip Art Library, and then down here, you're going to go to Borders, and you're going to pick your border. Now, I like the square, even though these look like they have fills, they don't. Those are the first ones I showed you. They don't have fills. I'm going to use one of these rectangles like this one. Actually, I think I used a pink one, this one. And insert. I'm just going to click it because I want it the size that I wanted it that size. I don't have to shape it. I want to put it in the center. So I'm going to click on my machine up here, center to hoop. There it is. It's nice in the center. Now this, I'm going to select this, and up here under auto, I'm going to click on auto so it will give me manual, show me the two parts. So I have the fill down here and the satin outline. Now they're connected, so I'm going to right click and ungroup them because I want to work with them individually. So my fabric, well, I want a placement line first. So I used this for my start of my placement line, and I went up here to convert, auto border to the outside. I didn't change the distance. I have it as 1 repeat, running, and okay. So there is the placement line for my fabric. So I'm going to click on this and drag it to the top. And I'm going to use that. Now I have to come over here because see it's selected and there's 0 stitches because I need to change this to never. And then I need to click on this one and change it to never. Let's see, did that give me stitches? Not yet. And this one here, I want this one to be never as well. And now this one has stitches, I can see right there. So I'm going to use my placement line to make my tack down of my fabric. I'm going to do a copy paste. It falls down here, that's okay. I'm going to click over here. I'm going to left click on the square to get my color swatches. And then in my swatches, oh, because we're in black, let me just get these to, and I'm going to change this to Janome. There we go. I'm going to make the next color, I think I'll make it green. And then once I choose it, I'm going to click here. So now this is green. Oops, I had them both. Oh, that's because I had them both selected. Hang on, let's go back over here. If we can get this one to be. Oops, why is it doing that? See, it did that to me the other day too. Let me delete this one. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to copy paste it. Then let's see if I can change the color to green. Well, it doesn't change. All right, well, it works a little different on my Mac than on my PC. So maybe I'll just click the pencil and let's do this one. Over here, let's click the pencil, take it to dark brown is fine, then click here, see what happens. There we go. It's the pencil. On my PC, I think it worked a little differently. I could do it all from the squares over here, okay? So on my Mac, I'm gonna have to put them up together to see what's going on. So I have a tack down. This is my placement. This is my tack down. I'm gonna bring that up second. It doesn't have any, does it have stitches? It does have stitches. It says never over here because it's a copy. Now I want to make it a little wider. So I'm going to use my offset here. And I think I want it at 0.07. So I'm just going to slide this up to there. And I'm going to go into running. And I'm going to choose, whoops, outline, and I want to pick a stitch, or actually I'm going to do a satin serial, and it's really too much, so I'm going to make the satin serial maybe a little wider, because I like it at, let's say it's going to be 1.5 mm, even though I'm in inches. It'll, well, I guess I didn't get the inch thing in there. 1.5 mm, there we go. And then I want to, next thing I want to do is I want to offset it here. So I'm going to offset it, I think, to 0.7. So it'll be out a little bit, and you can see, let's move it down here so we can see it on top of the red. So now you can see where it's sitting with the red, okay? It's not going to stay in this position, but just so we can see what we're doing. And then I want to change the density of this. It's a satin stitch. I want it to be less dense because it's just my tack down. I could use a straight line if I wanted. I think it depends on what you're working with. And as I make it more dense, they get closer together. So that's pretty good. That's 0.093 IN. And now I'm going to take it and just move it up into place up here. So I have placement, tack down on my fabric. Then it's going to stitch all that fill for here, and it'll finish with this. And now I can add my embroidery, and I could put my embroidery in any order. I could put it after I would want it after the fill stitch here. So for me, I'm going to go get my my Sew Janome. This was a machine. I made this for another project, and I just shrunk it down. It was actually like 8 by 8, and I shrunk it down in here, and it did shrink very nicely. So I'm going to copy this and bring it over here and just paste it. There we go. And then I'm going to center it in here. I could put it really anywhere I want in here. And if I wanted to, now mine stitched, I had it stitch everything up through here, and then I did my elements, and it stitched beautifully. So these I did do last. If you want to do it before your border, you can, but I didn't have any trouble with that. And then I'm going to make this all one color here. There we go. Now it's all one color. And then I just added my lettering. Now my lettering, I'm not sure here if I choose this. Let's see if it shows up here. Oh, it did. Okay, so I used one of the pre-digitized. This is XPG041. So over here, we will do that over here. I'm going to click right on my piece because that's where it's going to go. And I'm going to go down here and look for XPG041. It's way at the top. Now you can try different ones. I just, that was the one that came up maybe first or second when I was working, and I really liked it. So here we are. There we are. So what you can do is type your word. And mine's huge because right here at my font size, it's big. So I'm going to highlight that and put it at 10. There we go. And then what I wanted to do is move them apart slightly using this is a new feature, the spacing here. So I'm just going to click in here, and then I can use my arrow key, and you can see it's going up. Let's see it. There, now they're a little wider apart. Or maybe I want them less, so I would use my down arrow to bring them in. And this is just outline on there. And if I don't like that one, it does have an outline and a fill. I'm going to delete my outline by just clicking on the X. The red is selected, so it's just the fill. Let me click off and show you. And then while it's selected, or when I select it as a box, I can move it left and right all together. That's kind of nice. I settled it over there. Now, if I wasn't sure if that was the font I wanted, I could click in here, click again, and then I could use my mouse wheel and try out different ones to see what I like. So you have that option too. I'm going to go back to my 41. There we go. And then for the Janome, I'm just going to click down here and I'm going to type in my text box. There we go. And I'm going to select it and move it over and down just a little bit. Take that outline away. Now it looks like kind of weird right there where that M is, but when you click away from it, it's fine in there. Okay. And I did have this one space apart. So go back to your text and then use your spacing here. That might be too far apart. There we go. And then you can decide, how far apart you like them. There you go. So then I was all set. I just could take it to the machine and stitch it. Now, if I wanted to put this last, the satin outline, I could move it down here, which might be a great idea because I would have to remember to change my bobbin thread back here and then change it again here. Now, if I wanted to cover up the back with a piece of fabric, what I would do is I would go back in and use this, and I would copy paste that, go to my pencil, and let's change that to this blue here. It didn't change that one. Oh, good. And then I would put this one just before my piece there. So I would do all my stitching. I would lay a piece of fabric on the back of my hoop. I would let it stitch this, take my hoop off, and trim all the way around close, and then let it finish doing the satin stitch. Okay, and you can see over here the satin stitches over here, and if you needed to change the density on that, you could. You can add short long or take short. That's for getting around those corners nicely and smoothly. And the underlay is there, so you could change the underlay and your compensation. But this, I thought it stitched out beautifully. Like I didn't have to do anything to it, and I thought it stitched out really, really nice. This is a lot of stitches right now. This is 16,000 stitches. That's because that stitched part is heavy. But if I didn't want that part, I could use one of the others or just delete. Now that I have this done, when I pull it up another time, if I want to delete this part, I can. Now I do want to save it as a JEF file. I mean, not a JEF file. I want to save it first as my draw file so that I can come back and work with it again. So this is where I go to File, Save As, and it opens up. Now I'm on my Mac, but you would open your Explorer window, and on your left side you would find the area you want to put it. I'm going to put it under my embroidery files, and then these are all the folders that's in my embroidery section, and I would find in here where to put it. I think I'm going to make a new one. Let me see if I have one that says it does not. So I'm going to go new folder, and I'm going to call it Patches. There we go, and create. So there it's selected, and now I can call this Sew Janome. And if you look down here, this is the default for draw. So first I'm going to save it as a draw right there in Patches. Now I typically just go right here now and go to my machine. All right, I don't save it and then come back. So I can send it to a USB that's in my PC, or I can wirelessly send it or cable send it. So if I'm going to send it to my USB storage, I would click there. I would click over here on my USB stick, and then I could put it in here. Now, there's a lot of stuff on this stick, but that's still okay. Right now, I know I'm in my EMB folder because I see my EMBF. And if you watched my video for last week on the Continental Club, I think it was also on the Janome sewing machines, there are several of our machines now that you can put the designs on the root of your USB stick, which means you don't have to put it in your EMBF folder. So if I pop up one level, this little box here makes me go up one level. Now you will see, here's my EMB folder, and all of these things here are on the root of my USB stick. okay? All of those are on the root of my USB stick. So I could save it here onto my, just right onto my stick if I wanted to. The default is a JPX, which is a JEF file with a graphic thumbnail. You have the option of a JEF file. Your JEF Plus is really for when you're in the machine. Some of our machines, when like the 10,000, I think, in the 11, when you worked on the edit screen of your machine, it saved the positioning of things that you brought in and saved on the screen of your machine. So that's what the plus part of it was. So I usually just leave it at JPX for me. That always works, and I can export it to my USB stick, just like that. And I think I will, just like that. There it goes. Now, if I want to save it in my folder, because I don't want to open up my software next time, I just want to maybe copy paste it to a USB stick or something like that, I'm going to go back to Save As. I'm going to use my patches here. I'm going to change the draw to my JEF and save again. And then when you look in that folder, let's see if we can look in that folder. Let's go to Open. And I put that in my embroidery folder, and then it was in my patches folder. Here we go. So you can see I have a draw file and a JEF file. For me, I don't usually do this because I'm always at my computer and I go right to my machine. Very rarely do I need to go find something unless I'm teaching a class, and I make sure I have my JEF files. Our machines will not read a draw file. So if you get, it just depends on the way you want to do it. I don't need to have two files. Whenever I'm always working with the software. So I would just always just open my draw file and then send it to my machine. So that's how you would do it. That's how I would do it very easily. I'm just going to cancel that. So there you go. That's working with the, let me put my camera back on. That's creating patches. And we're kind of way over, but that's okay. Let me cover really quickly the doing an applique, how to create an applique. Because I've done that quite a bit, and really people are looking more at doing the patches. So I showed you how to do that. And I did use a ready-made shape here, but I could create my own shape, do it the same way. I could create my placement, my tack down, a fill for it if I needed to, a step fill if I wanted to have that fill, and then my satin border on the outside. Okay, so let me go back into the software and I'll show you, here we go. The other thing is when I select this part, or maybe this outline here, if I turn on my techniques up here and I turn on cut and okay, it didn't turn off. This doesn't mean my embroidery's off. It just means my embroidery is still on. I will have over here, I should have a cut. I have a cut work, but I also have a cut file. So right now, if I wanted to cut that blank, I could click here and I would go to I could go to change my cutter presets of whatever I'm cutting, and it would have my cut file there. I could go to my file, export to cutters. If you don't have if you don't have one of these cutters, you could use right down here, you could save as an SVG and take it to your cutter. So I could automatically get my cutter open and connect, and that's okay. There's my blank that's going to cut. And I'm going to close that. So I would have a cut file in there. I could easily make a cut file for that when I'm working with it. Okay, and you can use any of your shapes. I would use this one because it's the probably the biggest one. This is the placement, and this are the same well, placement might be a little bit better. It's a little wider. So then you'd have a pre-cut. You could cut them with, pre-cut them on your cutter if you wanted to. It makes it really easy to work with. No trimming involved. Sometimes when I do a cut, I might offset it to be a little bit bigger than the line that I've chosen using that offset button that we used earlier. So you would have that. So that's working with a cut file. So let's go to a new page, and I want to make an applique. So I'm going to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use I'm going to go back and get a shape here. Oh, not from there. That's not what I want to get it. Symbol. Let me go in here and I'll pull out, let's say I may want to use this for an applique. So I'm going to bring this in. There it is. Okay. I'm going to have it selected. And then over here, I'm going to click on my fill. This is a fill because applique is a fill. It has an outline. I don't need this outline, so I'm going to delete that outline now, but I'm going to go to into my fill and applique. And in here are all my applique tools. So if I want to trim my fabric during embroidery, or I can choose, a pre-cut in here. And if I choose one of these, it will give me the pre-cut fabric automatically. But if I want to trim during embroidery, I pick there. I can choose what I want to do. Maybe I want a satin stitch on the edge, and I can decide how wide I need that one, and any of the things I need to do, density with that, I can make all those changes. I can bring in something on top of this. Let's go to Janome, and I'm just going to grab this machine, oops, and copy it and bring it over here. It's going to be kind of big for there, but that's okay. Oh, maybe not. There we go. And I want to stitch that on top of there. Okay, so what would happen here is when I go to slow redraw, even though it looks all one color here, your machine reads it as multicolors, so it will stop between each part. Here is my placement, and the little cursor is going to jump away and then start the next part, which is tack down. So when it jumps away, this is where the color change would be, and then it would do the tack down. There we go. And then it's going to do your finishing. And then it'll jump in here and do this part. Okay. If I chose a different option here, let's choose this and choose like pre-cut and zigzag. It will give me it'll only give me 2 parts, but it also gives me the cut file. So I could come over here. Oh, I have to have techniques turned on. Let me make sure my technique is turned on. There it goes. Now I see my cut stuff. So I know it's going to give me a cut file for this. Okay, so it automatically gives it to me. It also doesn't give you as many steps because you are not doing any trimming. So it'll do a placement. You'll lay your fabric down. See how it's doing the zigzag already? And then it'll finish it. This has like a triple thing in there. And then it'll do the inside part. Hopefully that makes sense. Give it a try, play with both of these. You could do badges the same way, your patches and your badges the same way if you don't want to create extra parts. All right, let me go back to the camera, and we are a little long today, but that's okay. All right, everyone, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to put your comments down below. If you need help with your patches, I'm trying to find my Janome one that I love so much. I'm really excited about this. I might make more of these. I have to get some twill fabric, but that did come out really nice. Just a couple things I want to change, and I really, really like it. I might even put an inner border around this because I like that. So check out your software for those easy templates that we have. You can use these for your badges and your patches right there very, very easily. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you again next time.